Yeah.
My name is Keenan Cortez, Senior. There is a second and a third, actually. I live here in Joplin now. I was born and raised in Carthage. I've traveled all over the world in my military service, but I've made my home here in Joplin since 1999. Left for a little bit and came back in 2004, and now this is home. I'm employed at the largest employer in the area, Freeman Health System, and I serve on the Joplin City Council.
Melody Colbert Keene, born and raised in Joplin, have been a number of things, titles, labels, whatever you want to call it. I've made a joke that I'm going to start introducing myself as formerly known as. And then you can just pick one of the mayor, vice mayor, council member, restaurant owner, citizen, this, that, board members. Yeah. So that's me. Nothing super special. I'm just me, an ordinary person doing some stuff. That's it.
Sergio Rizzo, originally from Chicago, Illinois. But I tell people I'm as much from Joplin as I am anywhere. I've lived in Joplin 3 times, and I think now it totals a third of my life. College brought me to Joplin. So my faith journey began as a freshman in college, and I came down to Joplin to attend Ozark Christian College, and then was anticipating being here for a year and then going on to counseling is what I thought. But ended up staying for 4, got a degree, and then went on from there. So I work for a faith-based nonprofit called Stadia Church Planting as a director of advancement. So I help fundraise money to help faith communities that will intentionally care for children.
So my name's Dola Flake, and I am born and raised in Joplin, Missouri. I had a great experience growing up here. It came with its difficulties, but overall really good. Being biracial in Joplin was an interesting experience. I think there were some benefits to being able to be accepted into and learn about both the white and the Black culture in my area. So race and culture has always been very interesting to me. I went to Crowder College before Missouri Southern, and then on to Missouri State, where I got my master's in social work. I am the diversity and transition coordinator for Missouri State University and also the lead organizer for Joplin for Justice.
My name is Jerron Scott. I'm from Lawton, Oklahoma. I came to Joplin to go to Ozark and graduated in May of 2018. Stuck around. I'm associate pastor at Christ Church of Joplin.
My name is Shalise Cooper. I'm from Kansas originally. I attended Pitt State University, but I had family here in Joplin for the past 100 years. We have had family here, and so I've been involved in a lot here in Joplin. I've lived here for the past 20 years. I work locally. I'm involved in a lot of community activities, and I love Joplin.
Can you feel it in the walk to see, this is where I want to be, feeling like serenity. Bubble got to pop to breathe, usually with history, you can bet authenticity. See, got me high and touched the tree, didn't brunch on liberty, you got me high, you just next to me. Leave, never know, never, met you, upgraded my letters.
Well, I haven't been born and raised here. I think the thing that I like the most is probably the foundation that I was given here. Not just from my family, but you learned a lot as far as being good neighbors, that kind of thing. Now, once I got older and traveled a lot, then I kind of seen, wow, this is really, okay, those were the basics. Yeah, that was the basics. But so I like the foundation that I got. I like the being rooted in Joplin, and I love the accessibility because I travel a lot, and so it's really quick to get to places. And there are some scenery and different things like that I like also. And then the most important thing is probably I like the possibilities that I see for Joplin. And I say that because I've been, like I said, traveled a lot and been to a lot of different states and cities. And I see the things that they have going on in their cities. And I see that surface being scratched here in Joplin. And I like that. And I hope that we continue that. I hope that's something that can build and grow. So Joplin has a lot of untapped potential still. And so that gives me hope for the possibilities of it.
What I love about Joplin is primarily the people. Joplin is a community with all of its warts and imperfections is still very loving. And I think most of us find an opportunity to belong here. The other things that come along with Joplin is just access to other areas. So if you live in a major city, it takes 50 minutes to get anywhere. So where can you be within 50 minutes of Joplin? I can be on trails. I can have kind of an inner city, urban, downtown setting of pubs and, boutique restaurants. Or I can, be enjoying the mall and entertainment and those kinds of things. And I love being able to do that and have a home, not have to work 3 jobs because the cost of living is, very reasonable. But mostly I love the people of Joplin.
I love everything about Joplin. I think Joplin offers a small enough town and community to be considered maybe rural and country, but is also large enough to where I have all the amenities that I need. I have the large big box stores that I can go get the things that I need, but I also got the small mom and pops, the small locally owned restaurants that I can go and patronize. And I can also get, a really nice steak from a national brand. I think Joplin offers a lot of great things to a lot of different people. And I love that about it, that it's not so big that I'm stuck in traffic for 2 hours trying to get home from work after a long day. But it's not so small to where the streets are rolled up every night at 9:00 when the sun goes down. And I love that about this town. And I think it's fair. I think you can go to school here and end up with a master's degree and never even leave town. But you can also be able to walk down the street and know all the neighbors that live on the same street as you because it's small and friendly enough for that.
The hustle that Joplin has, or ambition, whatever you want to call it, the hustle that Joplin has is a lot bigger than what can be measured. I think 50,000 people that live in Joplin, it'd be considered a small town, I'm assuming. But a lot of people, from what I've seen, have a lot of hustle. There's a lot of people who want to do a lot of stuff and make Joplin better and do this and do that and do this and do that. I think just about every week I'm talking to somebody who's doing something. So yeah, that's unusual for a smaller town, but I love it.
I love a couple of things. I love the restaurants here. There's a lot of good small mom and pop local places to eat. I love that. The cost of living is great. I love that. And I also love how people come together during like tragic events or emergencies or, we had the tornado here, of course, everyone knows about that. And I feel like whenever there is something that happens, a lot of people do tend to pull together in this community.
I love a lot of things about Joplin. Joplin's home for me, so always will have a special place in my heart. But specifically, I would like to talk about just the collaboration and the care for people that I see in Joplin. So there are so many different people and organizations that are working hard to provide services to meet a wide variety of issues that come up in our community. Not only do we have a lot of people putting that effort forward, but as I said, they're collaborating. So they're coordinating those efforts in a way that they can be most impactful. And I absolutely love that about Joplin. I love that we come together as a community after the storm, the tornado. We saw that we are incredibly resilient and that we carry each other through when it's needed. So that is one of my favorite things about Joplin.
seeing everything that's going on, this last couple months with protests and the deaths that are in the news with George Floyd and the deaths before that, and the protests in Joplin, how are you feeling and doing with all of that?
I love that question because nobody asked that question. It's almost like people don't care about the answer to that question anymore. But initially, when everything happened, Ahmaud, Breonna, George Floyd, I was angry. I was upset. I was hurt that here we are in 2020 and we're still doing this. Really? And it hurt me. All those people look like me. All those people have probably a lot of the same experiences in their upbringing that I had in my upbringing. And to see the public display of their deaths is it's painful. And I'm not talking about, getting sad and crying. I'm just talking about it just really hurting your soul that this is still happening. And everything that's happened post that, the protest and the marches and the resurgence of a lot of things in our communities that we're starting to have conversations about, is I get it. I understand. I absolutely do not in any way condone any of the violence that has taken place. People are breaking the law. They should be held accountable to that. But at the same time, I get it. I understand that desperate frustration that people feel that as a person of color, we are still looked at as a threat, that we're still looked at as being different, that we're still looked at as being not equal to everyone else. And man, that is frustrating. That is frustrating to the very core of my being. And I hope I'm articulating that enough to get across just how devastating it is. But once you get knocked down, you do got to get back up. You got to get back up and you got to do something about it. So hopefully I'm here today to help do something about that.
I feel tired. I feel exhausted. I think that the pandemic preceding all that happened with our country, depending on who you listen to, they say this is the most significant thing that's happened to the world since World War II. And yet we don't see the shrapnel, we don't see the bandages. And so we are all probably a little bit less than our better selves. And so then you lead into these very intense social moments where all you have is the ability to focus on it, where before you had a lot of distraction. You had, sports activities for your kids, and you have schooling programs, and you've got church programs, and you've got work. But now you don't have that, and you just got to watch it. And so I feel pretty tired, and I feel like I'm not my best version of myself. And so there are times where I'm maybe not as patient and understanding as I'd like to be, and I have to step back and remind myself, oh, that's why. This is a very difficult season of life for the world that happens to have, on top of that, a very intense social situation happening.
Me personally, I am doing okay. I've had friends come to me on both sides of it. I've had people messaging me, asking me if I'm okay, and how I'm doing. I've had people, not on the nice end of it. They're just more so of, why are people doing this? Why is this happening? And things like that. And so then you have to go into explanations. And I think that's when I get a little more upset about it, is because it's like, how can you not know this? Or how have you not seen this? But if you've never been taught, or if you've never been exposed to it, then I guess you wouldn't know, out of sight, out of mind. So I'm doing okay with it. I do have 2 little boys that I worry about. I have a younger brother that I also worry about. And I have my mom that she is a driver for a delivery company, and she is a Black woman, and she has to go to local smaller towns that She's been told, don't be here after dark. So, with all of this going on, people are in a little bit more of an uproar in all races. And so she's been, confronted about a few things on her delivery route. So, I do worry about those things.
How am I doing personally with the race conversation right now? James Baldwin, I love the quote. He had an interview where he said, to be a Negro in America and relatively conscious is to be at a state of rage almost always. I'd lower that a bit and say, personally, and this has been for some time, hasn't changed, been at a constant state of irritation from just knowing of like this happens. People in the country that I live in who look like me and me were treated differently because of the color of our skin in tangible ways. I mean, a man's murdered. People don't get jobs. Children are absolutely dehumanized. And so, I mean, it's just like, massively irritated by it. Slightly encouraged now. I feel like the conversation's different. I think one of the good things that's going to come out of coronavirus and the whole pandemic is that all of us were at home and forced to pay attention to George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. So we couldn't go back to work and distract ourselves and forget about it. We weren't allowed to. So America developed almost a collective consciousness of race issues in the country. Most of America did. And I think we developed such an awareness of, oh man, this is reality and these race issues are real, not just out there, but in here, whatever in here is, we've got to do something about it. So, I mean, that's encouraging. So irritated, encouraged, same sandwich. Yeah.
I feel like I have to like take a breath sometimes because it's frustrating. It makes me angry. It's tiring. And it's hurtful and it's also disappointing. I feel all of those at any given time. The frustration is that we're still dealing with this in 2020. The anger is that why are we dealing with this still in 2020? And the tiredness is still along those lines, but it's tiring because this same story, we haven't changed the narrative at all. It's just different. It's viewed different now because we have phones and it's in your face all the time. And so I think that's the only difference that I see. And not that I lived in the era when all of the civil rights and all that was happening, but I was just like right after, like 2 years after it or so. And hearing my grandmother and my mom and my aunts and cousins and stuff talk about it, and then seeing what we're going through now, it makes you, the question is just why? Why are we still going through this? And then I guess I could say that I'm hopeful. I try to maintain a little bit of hope that we can get past this one day, that we can and will see a difference, that something's going to change. And our stories will be believed. We won't have to, and just on our word, not having to prove something, that these occurrences are happening and that this flat out murder and that this, flat out just all this racial tension and everything that's going on. You just wonder when is it going to end? When is it going to ever be over? The Sam Cooke song, a change is going to come. Still waiting. Still waiting.
chill. Can't keep me still, even when